Today I'm going to be making Cassoulet from the Complete Robuchon by Joel Robuchon. I cannot recommend this book enough if you want to get into French cuisine at home. You might think everything would be overly complex because Joel Robuchon was known as the most Michelin-starred restaurateur of all time, but it's really his love note to French cuisine in general, and it includes everything from simple, rustic French countryside recipes that you can easily make to get yourself started, all the way up to more complex dishes like this cassoulet. It includes a chapter on French heritage recipes and uniquely French, you won't find them anywhere else, types of cuisine. And so that's where this recipe is found. Authentic cassoulet is a lamb, pork sausage, and bean stew, and it is hearty. The layering of the flavors is so complex, but so good. It takes a lot of time to make, but you won't regret it. The broth is just, I really haven't ever tasted anything like it in my life. So we're going to go ahead and hop into the kitchen, and I'm going to show you how to make this. To get started making our cassoulet, we want to get 1 kilogram of Tarbais beans. And these are an heirloom French variety of beans. You can get them on Amazon dry. And we're going to go ahead and just put these in a pot, and we're going to bring this pot to a boil. You can substitute cannellini or like Great Northern beans or any other white bean, but these heirloom varieties do have a unique sort of mellow flavor to them. So if you don't mind getting them and you can get them, I would suggest it. We're also going to get a couple of onions that we've peeled here, whole onions, as well as a clove. And we're just going to stick that clove to puncture on in there, and we're going to go ahead and put these in as well. 1 clove per onion, because cloves have a pretty strong flavor, so you don't need to put a ton in there. Next, we're going to add a whole peeled carrot, as well as 6 cloves of garlic. Now I'm going to make a natural bouquet garni. So I've got 10 stalks of flat leaf parsley. We've got 3 bay leaves and 4 snippets of thyme sprigs from my garden. And this is a leek leaf that I've cut into these long ribbons. And we're actually going to just use that to tie all of these herbs together. Get that pretty tight, and I'm actually going to tie it in 3 places to try to help really hold this together so we don't end up with a bunch of loose bits floating around. Then we're going to go ahead and take our bouquet and just add it to the pot. Get that in there nice and good. That is really going to flavor up this broth. And the last thing we're going to add at this stage is probably an odd ingredient to a lot of people. It's pork skin or pork rind. And this is actually a very important element to make an authentic cassoulet. And you don't actually end up eating this as part of the soup at the end, but it does serve a flavoring purpose and then another purpose, which I'll show you later when we get there. But this is about 250 grams of pork rind, and we're going to go ahead and put that in. Now we're going to bring this to a bubbling simmer, and we're going to let this cook for about 60 minutes. While the beans are cooking, we're going to go ahead and prepare some of the other ingredients that are going to go into our cassoulet. So I've got a pan here that I've filled with water that I've got up to a bubble, and we're going to put 250 grams of sliced pork belly in there. And we're just going to let this cook in the boiling water for about 5 minutes, and then we're going to take it out and set it aside for later use. I've wiped down our large pan, and now I've melted 4 tablespoons of duck fat from confit in there. And so I've got 250 grams of lamb neck meat, and we're just going to put this in the fat and brown it. We don't have to cook it all the way through. We just need to get it browned on all sides. With the lamb neck browned, we're going to go ahead and leave the duck fat behind because we're going to be doing many things in this pan here. And we're just going to go ahead and take the meat out, though, and set it aside. Next up, in the duck fat, we're going to brown 800 grams of lamb shoulder, boneless. And you're going to need to do this in batches, and this is about the most that you want to go because if you overcrowd the pan, it won't brown properly. So as each batch browns, you're just going to sort of stir fry them and then remove them to the plate. Again, leave the duck fat in the pan because we're still cooking in here. The bean mixture has been cooking for about an hour, so at this point we're going to lift the lid. We're going to put in 1 raw garlic flavored sausage, as well as 300 grams of fresh pork sausage. This recipe calls for 2 loose sausage. That can be quite difficult to find. If you can't find it, you want to use some sort of sweet Italian sausage from your local butcher or grocery store. But we're going to go ahead and put those in as well. And then we're going to go ahead and let this continue to simmer for another 15 minutes. Still in our duck fat pan over medium-low heat, I've sliced into rings 2 more large onions, and we're going to go ahead and get those in there, as well as 3 tomatoes, very ripe and firm, that I've peeled and then de-seeded and then diced. And we're going to get these cooked here until those tomatoes release their juices and change colors, and those onions just kind of begin to get soft. After about 3 minutes of our vegetables bubbling, we can go ahead and add 4 crushed garlic cloves, as well as just a couple of ladles full of the bean cooking water. Should be about 10 tablespoons. And then we're going to just mix this up a little bit, and we're going to let this continue to simmer for another 10 minutes. Back at the bean pot, we are just about done with this stage of cooking. So now what we're going to do is we're going to fish out all of the non-bean solids. So we're going to get out our sausages, as well as the onions and the pork rind. We're going to save the sausages as well as the pork rind, and the other solids, the bouquet garni, these big onions were actually the carrot. We're going to discard all of those. Now we're going to run the beans through a sieve, and we're going to separate the bean liquid from the beans. Keep both, though. Just keep them in separate bowls. At this point, I'm going to season with about a tablespoon of salt. And obviously at the very end, you'll want to adjust for seasoning as well. But that's just sort of a baseline that I go with. And we're also just going to put a little bit of coarse ground pepper in here. And now we're going to add our partially cooked beans. Don't be upset that these beans are not cooked through yet. These things still have a long time to go in the oven. We're going to go ahead and put those in and mix them with the other vegetables. And we're just going to let this continue to cook while we start to assemble our cassoulet in the big pot. We're going to go ahead and preheat the oven to 250 degrees now. And I've got a large enameled cast iron Dutch oven. So we're going to begin to layer our cassoulet. And what we're actually going to do is use that pork skin from earlier. And we're going to line the bottom of this. And because this is going to cook for so long in the oven, what that's going to do, besides flavoring the dish, is going to prevent the actual good parts of your cassoulet from burning into the enamel or from giving you that burnt taste in your soup. Now we're going to alternate layers as we fill up this pot. So we're going to take a layer of our pork belly from earlier and get that in addition to some of the lamb meat. Now we're going to put in a layer of our sausages. And then lastly, we're going to put a layer of our bean and vegetable mixture on top of that. And we're just going to repeat the process again, starting with the rest of our pork and lamb. And I'm going to go ahead and let those lamb juices get in there too, because this is all going to get cooked out here over time. And the rest of the sausages. And finishing with the last of the bean mixture. You always want to finish with the beans on top, just FYI. And get all of those that good vegetable lamb bit, duck fat juice in there as well. Get that layer spread out across the top. Now we're going to go back to our stock that we made the beans in, and we're going to go ahead and pour that in so that the juices sort of turn this into more of a soup. And it should come up to just about the top. You can see it's creeping up there. And the absolute last thing before we put this into the oven is 2 more tablespoons of duck fat. We're just going to put that on the top, and that's going to melt and go in there. Now we're just going to go ahead and cover this, and we're going to bake this covered in the oven for 3 hours. While the cassoulet is cooking in the oven, we're going to make a parsley breadcrumb topping. So we're going to put a bunch of flat leaf parsley into a food processor, and then we're going to put in 10 slices of Melba toast. You can also use Holland rusks, but the recipe does specifically call for Melba toast. And we're just going to grind all that up until we get a nice crummy mixture. I just took the cassoulet out of the oven at the 3-hour mark, and it is looking and smelling really good. Now we're going to take the breadcrumb mix we made with the parsley and the Melba toast, and we're just going to spread that all over the top. And now we're going to put this back in the oven uncovered for another hour. So that's going to be 4 hours total in the oven. Like I said, this is a long cooked stew. I just took the cassoulet out of the oven for the final time, and man, it smells incredible. I'm going to let this cool down just a bit for probably about 10 minutes, and then we're going to plate up, and I'm going to show you what the finale of this looks like. Let's go ahead and dig into this cassoulet and pour ourselves a little bowl here. There we go. You can see how hearty this dish is. It's chock full of those beans, those lamb pieces, that sausage. And it's got this just amazing complex broth flavor. So what I'm going to do now is just for making it look pretty, right? I made a little bit of extra of the crumble that went on top. And so just for each individual bowl here, I'm going to sprinkle a little bit more on. And then put a little bit of just torn up pieces of parsley to give it a little bit of green. That little extra, some people say they don't taste parsley, but that little extra flourish of green certainly makes the dishes look a little prettier. And there we go. That is our Joel Robuchon cassoulet recipe. Like I said, this is the king of stews. It has such a complex flavor that I really think you're going to like, and it is definitely worth the time that it takes and the ingredients you have to gather. There really is no other soup that's like it, and I'm a big fan of, I recently did a pozole video of my own heritage, but this is just such a unique and wonderful flavor that I think your family will really enjoy it. We're going to leave it there, and I'll see you guys at the next video.